Here's my aunt, my mom, and my dad. Okay, so something that we should all be worried about is the current state of our bay. And this really hits home for me, because ever since I was young, I've always had great memories of playing in the bay, and I'm sure everyone can relate to this. So something that I was really astonished to find out is that most of the sewage that comes from drains doesn't actually go to the sewage plants. It actually runs straight into the bay, and this is actually really disgusting, at least to me. So, and this doesn't actually just affect us, but it also affects 70 million people that live around or near the bay. So first, I'm going to talk about how the bay is impacted, what's happening to it and the issues, and then I'm going to talk about what we can all do to lend a hand to helping save the bay. Then, finally, I'm going to talk about what a clean bay will do for us. So, the bay is impacted in several different ways. The main impact being nitrogen and phosphorus from sewage plants, because this blocks sunlight and underwater plants, or this blocks sunlight to underwater plants, and what this does is it blocks out any oxygen that these plants are receiving, and it creates dead zones in the bay where no vegetation can live or thrive. And another major contributor to the current state of the bay is land development, because what happens is more and more land is being developed, and this is taking away land and forest area from around the bay. And the main purpose that this forest land serves is it's actually all the sewage that runs into the bay. This forest land actually filters this from getting into the bay, but without it, it's just going straight into the bay without being filtered or anything. So, doing what we can to save the bay is so simple, because we don't really have to do all that much to lend a help. One major thing we can do is just driving a little bit less, because the nitrogen pollution that we talked about earlier, a lot of that comes from the emissions from driving. So one of the easiest things that we can actually do is buying foods locally, because what happens is when we don't buy these foods locally, the time that the cars are traveling to bring you your food is actually greatly impacting the bay as well, because of the emissions as well. And also, this helps keep these local farms and businesses actually in business. And one thing that we're probably all a little bit guilty of is the amount of electricity that we use. Because from the electricity that we use, the coal plants, these are also giving out emissions that are harmful to the bay. So, what are these going to help us with? Like, what would a clean bay do for us? Well, first of all, if any of you like seafood, your seafood will be more fresh, your oysters will be more fresh, and according to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, about 75% of the people that live around the bay and in the watershed actually drink from this water. Like, this water ends up going into their bodies, and this will be cleaner water and healthier people. Also, more jobs will be created for people whose work involves the bay. So, today we talked about nitrogen and air pollution and how it affects the bay, and land development, how it's taking away the filtration for the bay. We've talked about what we can do to help, very simple things, and we've talked about what a clean bay will bring us. So what we need to do now is to take action. We need to pay attention to our footprints, our driving emissions, our electric usage emissions, and we need to keep track of all the food that we don't buy locally. So the bay is in great danger, and none of us want to see it die.